What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we are going to give a shot at rebuilding the vacuum pump on this 12-valve Cummins. Something that's completely new to me, so we'll struggle along together. First thing we have to do is get it off. So the first thing I tried to do was to take the power steering pump off of the back of the vacuum pump. This is the vacuum pump here. This is the power steering pump. I undid the bolts that were there, or excuse me, the nuts that were on the studs there. Problem is, there was only 3, supposed to be 4, so that's cool. But the other problem was, when I went to pop it off the very back, it can't clear the back of the actual fuel pump. So what I'm going to do is undo the 2 bolts on the front side of the vacuum pump so that this can turn, and I should be able to rotate that far enough to just take that off separately, because I can actually leave the power steering pump in here attached and all when I take that out, and then later when I take the actual engine out. So let's get to it. So I switched this hose out thinking that that was the source of my oil leak, because it is a common place to fail, especially on a 20-plus-year-old truck. You can see since I switched it out, it's continued to get soaked with oil, but when I just pulled it off and dropped it on the ground, there's not a drop of oil in it. Clearly not the problem. So, voting it's going to be the pump seals themselves. Alright, did you guys notice how black my hands got? How quickly on there? That's nothing compared to what it used to be. Used to be a lot worse. Anyway, this looks like it's a Wabco, and you probably can't see it on there, but it looks like it's been leaking oil from the seal down here, and it looks like it has been leaking from where the 2 sections come together right there. And earlier when I mentioned that there was no oil in the line, don't freak out. I haven't started the truck since I put that line on, and the oil that continued to leak out. I had cleaned off everything under the truck, and now there's another good 1 foot wide stain on the concrete. So clearly no oil in the line, no oil coming from this. That's got to be our guy. Alright, see what we can do here. I guess nobody told these old boys that when you're working with aluminum, more power doesn't mean better. So anyway, looks like something funky got inside here because this seal is actually shrunk from what it should be quite a bit. And you can see it started to just pull out on its own. Oh yeah, it's really brittle too. I guess it could just be age, but it's really weird. Normally they'll fail in some other way before it shrinks up to nothing. Or down. Alright. It's definitely seen better days, but see if we can't just clean her up and put it back together and call it good. I know these things still look horrible, but that's because somebody did a rattle can paint job on it and the engine while it was assembled, so I don't know why you would feel the compulsory need to paint aluminum, but it happened. All I care about is getting the grease and nasty off of there so that I can work on things without going, oh look, I gotta wash my hands. So now I'm gonna knock this nasty old shaft seal out of there, and that's the first one we're going to replace. So the first thing I'm going to do, well, that paint probably is a good mark already, but I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of marks on here just so I know everything's lining up. And then, I don't know if you noticed when I was smacking on it, it sits uneven, but we throw these bolts in there, pretty much flat. I'm gonna find something that fits that a little better. Ooh, look at that. So a 13/16 spark plug socket works perfectly. Alright, so we're just going to drive that out, and one of the seals we're going to replace is actually going to be on that retainer. So there's that. That's part of the seal. So this little guy, it's got, mine at least has a little square marker on there, and it's a good idea to keep that in the same orientation it came out. In this case, the square marker is going to go facing down from where I just set that housing. This is our bearing retainer. So this is the shaft seal that generally is what causes a lot of big leaks. Not ours in this case, but it wasn't in great shape to begin with. So we're also going to replace this O-ring seal because it's been flattened out and it's just about reached the end of its life too. So I want to clean this stuff up and then we'll get to reassembling. Yeah. I just wiped off my marks, but at least the other side is still there. Oops. That is dirty. Best way to get these O-ring seals out is with some kind of a mechanic's pick or dental pick. You want to not damage the housing at all, but just get that seal out of there. Go ahead and wipe it up, make sure there's no metal debris of any kind down in that channel. Or dirt. Dirt's just as bad as metal debris. Alright, it's looking pretty good. Got our new seal out of the bag. And put it on. There's that one. Shouldn't take a great deal of force to put the new one in. I'm just trying to find something that'll fit. It looks like it's pretty much seated as it is. You want to get it snug right up against that little lip in there. Wow. I think at one time or another that power steering pump broke, or the teeth broke on the engagement gear and chewed that up pretty good, but luckily that doesn't matter as far as this goes. Ooh. Looks like, I don't know if you can see it in there. Looks like there's some damage right in there, which is right around where that seal engages that. So if this thing continues to leak oil, I'm going to have to just replace it. But if I actually put my finger in there and feel it, it's actual damage to the metal. Definitely seen better days. My square down. Drop that guy back in there. And this is the way it came out. Here's our little paint line. We're going to line it up back here. I might have to put a little bit of oil on that. Alright. Normally they use grease on this, but I've never had a problem using oil versus grease, personally. Not saying don't do it, I'm just saying I use fresh oil. And I mean fresh, I just broke the seal on that container. I also don't have a bearing driver or anything fancy like that, but what I do have is a really big socket. So, now that I got oil lubed up on there, I'll take my really big socket. I'm going to take my hammer and just try to tap her on in. Oop. There she went. Make sure our gear still moves. Looks like we're in good shape. Alright. There's that part. Put our spacer nuts back on here. Oh, yeah. We don't need to do that part. So those two seals are usually the main culprits when it comes to having an oil leak at your vacuum pump. However, I believe my main culprit was this little guy. So since it's been sitting here for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and give it another wipe in there, and then I'll put the new seal on that one. You have fresh paper towel. Typically, I mean, most guys like to use lint-free cloths. This is fairly lint-free as long as you don't get too aggressive with it. But I see I've started to collect a little bit of dirt in the oil that was sitting right there, just a tiny bit. And we definitely don't need any in there. Get that out of there. Alright, now we'll work on the seal surface. Alright. Looking pretty good. Looks like I still have a little bit of cleaner in those holes, so I'm going to actually use a little bit of air and blow those out. Wow. Yeah, you're pretty much empty. Alright. Now we'll get this little teeny tiny O-ring here. And it does not want to stay. Alright. Now when you put these halves back together, you want to make sure these teeth mesh into that little, whatever you want to call it. Oh, also, you have this little pin here. Don't let it confuse you. This is not your hole. This is your hole. Wipe that off again. Alright. See how they're off? So I'm just going to take any little tool and get them to line up better. Aha! Even though the teeth are lined up, the gear is not in position to where it can fully slide in. And now it wants to fight. There it went. Fell right on there. Now your power steering pump side is going to have the same kind of teeth on it, and you want to make sure it meshes into the other side of that cross. For the moment, I want to make sure this seal's sitting where it's supposed to be. Nope, because they like to pop out, which it did. See, if I didn't check that and I just went ahead and bolted it down and left it alone, I would have been gushing oil the next time that engine started. it's still in position. Clean these bolts off real quick. Alright, I got those bolts cleaned up. Now, if that seal does give you a whole lot of trouble and doesn't want to stay in there, you can use a little bit of grease to hold it in place, or maybe even a little bit of oil. I got mine to stay in there the second time. The bolts, there is no specific torque number that I'm aware of. You know, you just want to get them good and snug, but you don't want to over tighten them like they were when I went to take them off of here, because you run the risk of actually breaking the housing. And I'll tell you what, you break any part of this vacuum pump and you will regret it, because these things are not cheap. Mine's not in great shape. I would like to just replace it now, but it did work before, which means with new seals it's going to work again. And for the moment, I can't really justify spending all that money on this. So, there you have it. I recommend using a wrench to actually tighten these guys back down. Like I said, you don't need to get it super, super, super tight. You don't need to have like 300 foot-pounds of torque on there like it had before. Just get it nice and snug. Alright, that's it. That is a fully rebuilt vacuum pump. Now, I'm going to check the numbers, but I'm pretty sure as long as you have a two-piece pump like this, this applies to both 12-valve and 24-valve Cummins engines. If I'm not correct on that, I'll put a little something on the screen here. Other than that, it's been great. It's been fun. Let's do it again sometime soon. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Alright guys, I just want to address the elephant in the room on this topic. I've seen it in a bunch of forums before, and it's just nuts. Okay, if your power steering is leaking, it has nothing to do with this vacuum pump. This vacuum pump only has motor oil going through it, okay? If you have a leak, it's a motor oil leak. If you're leaking power steering fluid and it's leaking from that general area, replace your pump. Okay? That's the end of the story. Have a good day.